Long before castles, long before kings and crowns, before England was even called England, something massive was built in silence. No written record, no names carved to claim credit, just stone, earth, and intention. If you stand in the Cotswolds today, surrounded by rolling hills and quiet fields, it is hard to believe that beneath this calm beauty lies one of the oldest and most unsettling monuments in Britain, a monumental long barrow. Raised over 5,000 years ago by people who believed death was not an end, but a doorway. At first glance, a long barrow does not look dramatic. It is not tall like Stonehenge stones. It does not reach for the sky. It stretches forward instead, long, low, and heavy, like the earth itself decided to rise slightly and then rest. But that shape is exactly what makes it powerful. This was not meant to impress from far away. It was meant to be approached slowly. Step by step, thought by thought. The Cotswolds' long barrows belong to the early Neolithic period, a time when humans in Britain were changing their entire way of life. They were no longer only hunters moving with animals. They were settling, farming, staying. And when people stay in one place, death becomes different. You can't just walk away from it anymore. You must face it. You must explain it. So they built monuments for the dead. The barrow was constructed using stone chambers, carefully placed, then covered with tons of earth to form a long mound. This was not the work of a few people. It took a whole community, weeks, maybe months of labor. Stones were dragged from far away. Earth was piled by hand. This tells us something important. The dead inside mattered deeply to the living outside. When archaeologists first opened these barrows, they found bones, not one body, many. Skulls stacked, limbs separated, bodies not laid gently as we do today, but arranged in ways that feel strange to us. This was not a simple grave. It was more like a house for the dead, and that is where the mystery begins. The remains inside were not always buried at the same time. Some bones were older, some newer. This suggests the barrow was reopened again and again. The dead were added over generations. The living returned to this place repeatedly, crossing the line between life and death without fear, or maybe with deep fear, but controlled fear. Some skulls show signs of careful handling. Teeth worn smooth, possibly from being exposed before burial. This hints that bodies were not always placed inside immediately. They may have been left outside first, exposed to nature, until only bones remained. Then the bones were gathered and brought into the barrow. Why would they do this? One idea is that these people believed the flesh was temporary, but the bones held the spirit. By placing bones together, they may have believed they were joining ancestors into one powerful group. Not individuals anymore, but a collective presence watching over the land. The entrance of many Cotswolds' long barrows faces a specific direction, often toward the rising sun. This is not accidental. The sun was life, warmth, growth. Each morning, light touched the entrance, as if waking the ancestors, as if reminding them they were still part of the world. But not everyone was allowed inside. That is another uncomfortable truth. These barrows were not for all. Only certain people were buried there. Leaders, elders, important members of the group. Children are rare inside. Outsiders are absent. This was not equality in death. Even in the Neolithic world, status followed you into the afterlife. Standing inside a reconstructed chamber today, you feel it instantly. The space is tight, low, dark. Sound disappears. Your breath feels loud. This was not a place for comfort. It was a place for respect, or fear, or both. Outside the barrow, life went on. Crops grew, animals grazed, children played. But the mound was always there in the background, a reminder. Every time someone passed it, they were reminded of who came before and who would come after. Over time, beliefs changed. New burial styles appeared. Round barrows replaced long ones. Individual graves became more common. The old monuments slowly lost their rule, but they were not destroyed. That matters. Instead, they were left, respected, feared, remembered. Even in later ages, people avoided disturbing them. Stories grew around them. Tales of spirits, curses, hidden power. Farmers plowed around them. Roads bent away. The dead were left in peace, not out of kindness, but out of caution. Fast forward to today. The monumental long barrows of the Cotswolds now sit in open countryside. Some restored, some still partly buried. Sheep walk over them. Birds land on them. Tourists arrive quietly, often surprised that something so old feels so present. The positive side of their current condition is clear. Many are protected heritage sites. They are studied carefully. Restorations allow people to safely enter and experience the chambers without damaging the original structure. These sites teach us about early human thought, community, and how deeply death shaped identity. They also offer something rare in the modern world: silence. Real silence. Standing at one of these barrows, phone signals fade, noise disappears, and for a moment, time feels thin. That alone is valuable. But there are negatives too. Exposure is a constant threat. Weather slowly eats away at stone and soil. Restoration, while helpful, can never fully replace what was lost. Some reconstructions raise questions: how much is original and how much is modern guesswork? There is also the risk of modern misuse. Some visitors treat the barrows as picnic spots or photo backdrops, forgetting they are standing on graves. Others bring personal beliefs and rituals, leaving objects behind: candles, symbols, turning an ancient site into a modern spiritual stage. This creates tension between preservation and personal expression. Another issue is romanticizing the past. These monuments are often described as peaceful, spiritual places, and maybe they were, but they were also built in hard times. Life was short, survival was uncertain. These were not gentle people living in a soft world. The barrows came from struggle as much as belief. Now, my opinion: I believe the monumental long barrows of the Cotswolds are not about death at all. They are about memory, about control, about humans trying to anchor themselves in time. When everything else was uncertain, weather, food, lifespan, these people built something that would last, and it did. I suppose you do anything provoke, cut. These barrows tell us that even at the very beginning of settled life, humans were already asking the same questions we ask today. Who are we? Where do we go when we die? And how do we make sure we are not forgotten? I also think these sites deserve deep respect, not because they are mysterious, but because they are honest. They show us humanity without polish. No myths of greatness, just people trying to make sense of existence with the tools they had. As of now, the present situation of the monumental long barrows in the Cotswolds is stable but delicate. Protection laws are in place. Archaeologists continue limited research. Tourism is controlled, but not always perfectly. The land around them remains mostly peaceful, still rural, still quiet. The barrows remain where they have always been, watching fields change, languages change, people change. They no longer hold fresh bones, but they still hold something else. They hold the weight of being remembered. Right under one of the most powerful buildings in the modern world, beneath stone halls where laws are made and leaders argue, there is something far older, far quieter, and far more unsettling. While politicians walk the corridors of the Palace of Westminster, few realize that deep below their feet lies a prehistoric site, one that existed thousands of years before crowns, before parliaments, before the very idea of Britain itself. This story begins not with kings or documents, but with mud, water, and wooden tools. Long before London became London, the River Thames was wider, wilder, and dangerous. Its banks shifted with the seasons. Floods came without warning. And yet, people lived here, not in stone buildings, not in cities, but in small groups who understood the river better than anyone who came after. Archaeological discoveries beneath and around the Palace of Westminster have revealed traces of these people. Wooden structures driven deep into the riverbed, tools made from bone and stone, footprints preserved in ancient mud. These are not legends. These are physical marks left by humans who stood on this ground nearly 6,000 years ago. Imagine that for a moment. Where Big Ben now rises, where the baits echo through grand chambers, prehistoric people once walked barefoot along the river edge. They fished, they hunted, they built wooden platforms to cross wet ground. They watched the water closely, because their lives depended on it. One of the most shocking discoveries was a prehistoric wooden structure, often described as a trackway or platform, built from oak posts driven into the ground. These posts were not random, they were placed with skill and planning. This tells us these people were not simply surviving day to day, they were shaping their environment, Why build here? The answer seems obvious at first. Water meant food, fish, birds, plants, but there is more to it than that. Rivers were also spiritual places. They were seen as living forces, places of travel, danger, and connection between worlds. Many ancient cultures believed rivers were gateways between life and death, between humans and spirits. Objects found in the Thames suggest ritual behavior, weapons placed carefully into the water, tools not lost by accident, but given, offerings. This means the area beneath Westminster was not just a living space, it may have been a sacred one. That idea becomes even more disturbing when we consider how long this location remained important. For thousands of years, people kept returning here. Tribes changed, languages changed, beliefs changed, but the place remained. Roman temples later rose nearby, medieval churches followed. Finally, the Palace of Westminster itself was built, power layered on top of power, coincidence or memory buried deep in the land. The prehistoric site beneath Westminster reminds us that humans often build important structures where importance already existed, even if they no longer remember why. Something about this bend in the river, this patch of ground, kept pulling people back. But unlike stone monuments, these prehistoric remains are fragile. Wood rots, mud shifts, much of what existed is already gone. What we know comes from rescue archaeology, quick digs done during construction and repairs. What remains is only a fragment of a much larger story. Still, even fragments can speak loudly. Footprints discovered near the river show adults and children walking together. This was not a hidden ritual site alone. This was part of daily life. Families moved here, children played here, fires burned nearby. And at night, the river reflected stars in a sky untouched by city light. Now let's talk about the present condition of this site, because this is where things become complicated. On the positive side, the area is heavily protected. Any construction near the Palace of Westminster is watched closely by archaeologists. Finds are recorded, preserved, and studied. Advanced technology allows experts to analyze wood, soil, and even ancient DNA without destroying what little remains. The discoveries have changed how we see London's history. The city is no longer just Roman, medieval, or modern. It is deeply prehistoric. That knowledge matters, but the negatives are serious. The site itself is not visible to the public. It lies buried, sealed, and inaccessible. Most people will never stand where those prehistoric people stood. Urban pressure is constant. Underground transport, repairs, security upgrades, all of these threaten what remains. Pollution and changing groundwater levels also damage organic material like wood. Every year, something is lost forever without us even knowing it existed. There is also a strange emotional problem. Because the site is hidden, it is easy to forget. Power above ground overshadows history below. Decisions that shape millions of lives are made daily, while the memory of the first people of this land stays silent and unseen. Now, my opinion. I find it deeply symbolic that modern power sits on top of ancient survival. Beneath debates about laws and borders lies proof that humans once lived simply here, focused only on food, water, family, and belief. No politics, no speeches, just existence. I don't think this is spooky in a ghost story way. I think it is humbling. It reminds us that power changes hands, buildings rise and fall, but land remembers everything. The prehistoric site beneath the Palace of Westminster deserves more attention, not as a tourist attraction, but as a reminder. A reminder that history does not start where we choose to look, it starts far deeper. As of now, the present situation is quiet and controlled. The remains stay buried for protection. Research continues slowly. No major public access exists. Above ground, the Palace of Westminster continues its role as a symbol of authority. Below ground, the land waits, holding the footprints of people who never imagined a palace would one day stand where they once walked.